following is a presentation of Jacob Sports.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the National High School Wrestling Show. I am your host, Henry Racich, and we will dive deep into the youth and high school wrestling world tonight, do a quick recap of what happened out in beautiful Altoona this weekend at the Triple and AA state titles. And I am bringing on our first guest for this evening is Jeff Uveino, sports writer for the Erie Times. Jeff, thank you for joining the show tonight. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having me on. Always love talking wrestling, so looking forward to it.
Yeah, Jeff and I sat next to each other. I'm going to say the first 4 hours before we actually started talking at that long press table out there. But man, Jeff, what an awesome weekend out there in Altoona.
I thought it was great. I really thought it was great. I don't know if you guys got the snow that we did in the eastern part of the state coming back Saturday night. That was not so great. But before that, I was really impressed by the facility. I'd never been in the school there at Altoona. I'd only been to Mansion Park, their football stadium, and just a really beautiful facility. There was plenty of room for everyone. I know that was maybe a concern, was will we have the room that we usually have in Giant Center, but I thought there was plenty of room. It seemed like everyone getting along well. And honestly,
for the most part, there was almost a couple little things happened, but yeah, for the most part, I agree.
The biggest thing that stood out to me was just the collective wrestling talent in that gym. It was astounding. I mean, we Faith Christian and Bishop McCourt go without saying, but when you got those guys wrestling on mats 1 and 2, and then I look over to my left and I see Keanu Dillard's wrestling, and then I look over to my right and I see Dalton Perry's wrestling, and it's just where can you get that aside from a PIAA tournament? And just the collective talent was so impressive, and it produced some great matchups, like you said, and some great matches. It was really a joy to watch.
So I agree 100%, Jeff. And for our viewers and listeners out there, tell me a little bit about the areas you cover. Like, what is your geographic responsibility working for the Erie Times?
Yeah, so I cover District 10, which is the northwestern portion of the state, as people can probably imagine from Erie. We include Erie, Crawford, Venango, Warren, and Mercer counties. So we go from the top of the state in the western half down about halfway to Pittsburgh. So some of our traditional powers are Reynolds, Hickory, Fort LaBeouf, General McLean, and Cathedral Prep, of course, which placed fourth at Team States this weekend, and which is why I was there following Cathedral Prep. And it was really kind of the stars aligned for Cathedral Prep this year. They brought back all 13 starters from a good group last year, and they had 4 freshmen who actually took 4 of those starting spots. And that coincided with Cathedral Prep dropping down from Class 3A for the first time ever. So now all of a sudden, in a year that was already super competitive in District 10, now we have Cathedral Prep coming down, which ended up being, a step ahead of Corey and Reynolds and McLean and some of our other good teams. But we got a lot of AA talent in this portion of the state. I guess that's what we're known for. The area, due to population trends, has trended even more toward AA in recent years. We're down to 4 AAA schools now: Harbor Creek, Erie High, McDowell, and Meadville, which of course was part of the realignment, how we now no longer have a Northwestern region for AAA, and our schools will wrestle with the WPIAL in that new Western region. But I'm Erie County primarily, but we do cover all of District 10. And we're looking forward to a pretty competitive D10 tournament in AA in a couple weeks, and what should be a really fun girls tournament this weekend in District 10 as well.
So let's talk a little bit about the weekend and the predicted top 4. Stood true to the prediction of who was going to be in that final race. I kind of was nail biting a little bit. With full transparency here, I may have a little bias towards Faith because that's where my son goes. But man, that McDevitt match was a nail biter. It just seemed like those top 4 teams, there was not much separation between those teams in any way. I mean, each one has their stars, but man, everybody was scrapping up and down that lineup.
Yeah, I think we probably all expected the final to be Faith versus McCourt, but McDevitt's lineup was so impressive. And I don't know when the first time I said it. I don't know if it was November or December or whenever, but I told my boss, hey, like, just so you know, I'm anticipating Cathedral Prep is going to wrestle Bishop McDevitt for third and fourth estates. So like, let's be ready for that. And it ended up happening. You never know what's going to be out there in the state every year, but that ended up coming to fruition. And Prep, I know that they thought that second time around against McDevitt, because of course they lose, McDevitt beats Cathedral Prep in the quarterfinals with those, I forget the score, 39-23, something like that. But Cathedral Prep, they didn't wrestle their 145 pounder, Gabe Dorman, who he hurt his shoulder last week at team districts. Something happened in the final. They didn't wrestle him Friday, but the plan was if they get back and they need him, they're going to wrestle him on Saturday. And they did against Berks Catholic. And he ended up losing that 145-pound match against Berks, but he kept it close. And without him, that's probably 6 for Berks. And that really changes things, because that duel ended up being 29-20 in favor of Cathedral Prep in the consolation semis. So I know that second time around, Cathedral Prep, they thought if they could flip either 14 or 20, or 21 or 27, which was, Grayson Music versus Cam Barrero, it did end up flipping that. And then, that was 27, and then 21 with Davion Edmond versus Liam Lawler. They thought if they could maybe flip those matches, get Dorman back in there, they could get it done. It didn't end up happening. Partially injury default. You can't anticipate that. But point being that McDevitt lineup, there's absolutely no breaks in it. And they, as we all saw, they gave Faith Christian a good run. They bumped some guys up. Baum, I believe, Camden Baum had a big win for them against Faith. And they made it interesting there for a while and really showed like, hey, there's more than 2 elite teams in Pennsylvania.
Listen, they wrestled with a chip on their shoulder. That whole match. They were very scrappy, very physical, between the circle, outside the circle, whatever. They were not cowering down to the almighty Faith. They were coming for them.
They were. Yeah, they sure were. And they almost had the horses to do it too, right? It wasn't like this team that was performing way above its level. They're really that good. That lineup's really that good. And it was interesting. It was interesting to see that kind of people start after those 2 upsets. I believe it was 45 and 52, somewhere in the middleweights. McDevitt won those back-to-back matches, and people kind of started looking around like, oh, like what's going on here? Faith obviously put it away impressively, but there's some questions being asked there for a moment, and I'm not sure whether people anticipated that or not. But again, like we said, just speaks to the depth that's out there.
Jeff, were you? I don't know if you were next to me. I just heard this roar on the other side of the gym. Is that when Dom Deputy got pinned right this weekend?
I was not with you. Yeah, Deputy got stuck early in that match. Yeah, I'm trying to remember when that was. I was on the other mat. I was on Deputy was on the far mat, and I was in Cathedral Prep wrestling on the close one. Yeah, that was one of the biggest pops of the weekend, and there were a few good ones. There were a few good pops, right? And I guess that's part of the benefit of the kind of the intimate setting, right? Just in a high school gym.
Yeah, at Hershey, that might happen, 100 yards away, the other side of the mat, if we were at Hershey. But and I did hear he was pretty sick. I don't know if you heard that. That was
I did not know. They're a little out of my range, Chestnut Ridge, but yeah, those are things that a lot of times as fans and as observers and even as a journalist like myself, we can't know that, right? Like we don't know. There's so many factors at play, like a sickness and a lingering injury that we're not talking about. So, from our third, I do District 10 wrestling rankings. We all look at the rankings online. We all try our best to predict what's going to happen. But sometimes a kid wakes up and he's super sick, and what are you going to do? Or sometimes, whether he was sick or not, I think he got headlocked, if I remember right. So, I mean, sometimes you just get hit in the headlock.
Anybody can get caught. It's like any given Sunday, any given Saturday. That's what I try to tell my son. He's a freshman wrestling at Faith. His first 10 matches of his high school career, everybody was ranked in the top 10. Iron Man, Skate the Rock, all these big tournaments. It's like, I feel bad. He's wrestling up, but it's like, there's your dues. You got to pay your dues, right? You want to wrestle with the big dogs. You got to, face whoever comes at you. But it's definitely that atmosphere, man. I don't know how many top 10 wrestlers in the country were in that gym. double digits easy, right?
Yeah, for sure. And it was like you looked around and there were so many wrestlers who like you just knew who they were just by looking at them. I mean, you and I, we follow wrestling, high school wrestling pretty closely, but no matter how closely you follow it, like just recognizing a kid based on looking at them with high schoolers who are constantly cycling through that, that can be rare. Everyone when they see Bo Bassett walking and you say, oh, or you always see Jax, there are a dozen of those kids.
Right.
How often does that happen? And let me real quick. You mentioned your son; all of his matches are so tough. Pennsylvania is just brutal. I grew up in Western New York, the Rochester area, and I've coined this term that I call Pennsylvania wrestling brain, because the standard here is so high that it, I think, kind of morphs what people view as like regular. Like, for example, cover the Fred Bell tournament in Grove City.
Right.
That's like one of the best regular season tournaments I've ever seen. But it's like not even the best tournament going on that weekend. Right. Or people talk about like Tool City and Meadville. Oh, it's not that good of a tournament. This is like a great tournament. We're New York guys. We'd never found anything like that. So I call it Pennsylvania wrestling brain. This idea that, oh, well, we're not competing at the super high level, when in reality you really are. And Faith Christian is perhaps the most extreme example of that. That the schedule you guys wrestle, like you're only taking on teams that are legitimate. So maybe we can call that Allentown wrestling brain or Quakertown wrestling brain or wherever you guys have down there.
Well, Bo Bassett calls it the PA pipeline. Just how many really tough guys just come out of this area, eastern side, especially the western side. You put that's like a dream team together. Penn State's still number one.
Yep.
They have a legacy up there, and it just keeps on going and going. Like we're gonna have Bo Bassett on the show tonight. After you and I are done. Talk about how much wrestling life is. I went up, I met his dad, shook his hand, shook Bo's hand. It's like, man, that guy's 11th grade. He's just signed a $5 million NIL deal.
And you never know it, right? Like I saw Bill had posted on Facebook, like congratulating Faith Christian, like good, all good combat. And, that mindset to me, like that says it all about, my limited experience of being around McCourt, being around Faith Christian. I've never really talked to those guys, but just seeing them at tournaments and seeing how the kids interact and the parents interact, it's good stuff, right? Like we want to make elite level wrestlers. We're not here to win team states. We're here to make men, and we're here to make elite level wrestlers who are prepared for life. We're not winning the tournament is a byproduct of what we're trying to do, at least from an outsider's perspective.
Right.
That's what it appears to be happening. And I think that's super special, because there are a lot of opinions out there that are contradictory to that, and people who are just so focused on, this first place or whatever it is, that they maybe lose sight of why we're doing it, or why wrestling, how wrestling, can prepare you for life. And when I wrestled, I certainly wasn't thinking about like the life lessons and stuff, but in hindsight, there's a reason that Dan Gable said, once you wrestled, everything else in life is easy, because it's true.
I say that, I preach that all the time. You are spot on. Wrestling is a combat sport that challenges every nook and cranny of your sanity, of your heart, of your courage, of your manhood. There is no woe is me. You can't have any type of woe is me attitude, because nobody cares. And listen, you can't let the bad times keep you down, because my son was upset after his second match, and I was like, okay, Henry, nobody cares. It's done. You got the finals coming up here in an hour. Flush it, and let's go, brother. Let's go. Before he knew he was going to have Jack Forrest, but still, the mindset's got to stay where it is. You got to shrug that stuff off and get back in there.
Yeah, and that's a common trait amongst the best that I've seen, is that mindset. And I'm glad that mindset training is becoming more widespread amongst youth wrestling, because I think that's really important. I found as a youth wrestler, or not even a youth wrestler, as a high school wrestler, if there was like a match that I was supposed to win it would be like debilitating because I would be so nervous about, like, am I going to blow it? Am I going to lose this match and not be like, and
everything mindset, and especially this sport, because your mind is constantly being challenged,
and it's just you.
Yeah, and it's everyone. It's information coming. That guy's third. He's fifth. He's seventh. And I keep trying to tell my son. I said, well, did he do that against you? Then who cares what number he is? But it's tough. They're young guys. They read the papers. They see the rankings. There's Instagram, and after my son after the match, I'm like, listen, man, keep your head up. Jack Forrest, he's like the best in his weight class. The guy's an animal. And then like an hour later, he gets clipped in the fireman's carry, that's all over Flow.
Yeah.
All right, Dad, it can't get any worse than that. I just got clipped on Flow with Jack. Like, you're immortalized. That's any news is good news, right? Any press is good press.
Yep, he's the man in the arena.
Yeah, so, hey, listen, Jeff, man, we're going to have you on more often because we don't have that reach out there, to the west side of the state. Again, everyone that's listening for the first time or third, fifth time, this is Jeff Uveino from Erie Times. He is going to be our West Coast of Pennsylvania correspondent. Welcome aboard. I really appreciate you coming on here, Jeff. And
thank you so much for having me.
Our east side of the state before the big match, before the state tournament in Hershey hits. You got any dogs out there that are going to come over here and upset the
I'll tell you what. I mean, Chase Karen Bauer is no secret, obviously, but we've got some girls who are some hammers. We got some 9th grade girls who are legitimate state championship threats. Karen Bauer is our best chance in D10 to win states. After Karen Bauer, you got to watch out for some of these girls. Maybe that's what we can talk about next time because they're coming. They're talented, and now that they got a platform, they're ready to go.
Jeff, we have to get into women's wrestling. We have not gotten there yet. We are going to do that in the next 2 to 3 weeks. So I'm going to rally up my east side. You rally up your west side. We'll meet in the middle, and we'll get together again. Sound good, Jeff?
Sounds awesome, man.
All right, Jeff. Thanks for your time. Jeff Uveino from Erie Sports. Thank you, Jeff. We will be in touch with you in a couple of weeks. And for our listeners, we'll be back soon to the National High School Wrestling Show.
What if you could earn an MBA fully online in just 10 months for only $9,900? Eastern University's cutting-edge MBA in Organizational Management is designed to fit what you need in an MBA program. Our innovative LifeFlex model offers 100% online classes that you can complete at your own pace within each 7-week semester. We know how hard you work for your money, so we're thrilled to offer our MBA at only $9,900, making our program between 50 to 80% less expensive than most other schools, while ensuring quality and excellence with the support of our expert faculty. We even offer a concentration in business analytics, an essential skill set needed in today's data-driven economy. With start dates every 7 weeks, Eastern's MBA is handcrafted for you and your needs. So what are you waiting for? Apply today at eastern.edu/MBA.
Welcome back to the National High School Wrestling Show. I am your host, Henry Racich, as we dive deep into the high school wrestling world. If you're tuning in right now, there is no way in hell that you do not know who's to my right on this set here. Bo Bassett, how are you, sir?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. I got to see you wrestle live for the first time this weekend out in Altoona. Little different than Hershey, but hey, they got the job done out there. That was a great tournament. Everything went well. How you feeling after that?
Yeah, feeling good. We had a great tournament. I think team did well. We obviously had the rematch, and hey, you don't always get that, right? Obviously, Pennsylvania is the best state, but it wasn't just a state final. It was a national final. So that was exciting. It was a great tournament. We were back to work even yesterday, and then back to work today on Monday. But it was awesome. It was a lot of fun. I think there was a lot of lessons to be learned and some great matches.
Yeah, but let's talk about your match with Jake Stein. Now, first thing, when I see Jake Stein, I think of length, how long he is and tall he is. I think you put something up about a David and Goliath.
Yeah.
Pretty close to that. It's pretty.
Yeah, it was. And I'm not super short, I don't think. And he was just super tall. And, one of our strategies coming into the dual meet was we were trying to get Butler into the lineup. Our whole plan was he was going to hopefully win his match at 39. He did great, but he came up short. So that kind of backfired on us a little bit. But that was our game plan, was to stick him in there, bump up Herring, I bump, Magro, and then Miller also bumped. So that was like kind of our plan. So I bumped up to Stein. I knew he was big, but I didn't know he was, he was that tall. But he's not only tall, he's not only big, he's a great wrestler, and I have nothing but respect for him. He wrestled my brother, Melvin, last year, twice. Okay. So I knew of him, obviously, and I see him at every big event. I know he's like 8 in the country. He's top 10 in the country at the weight above. So I have a lot of respect for him. And shaking hands during captains was when I really realized how tall this guy was. And I'm shaking his hand and looking up, and then I finally reached his height. And it was
like Rocky and Drago a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. No, nothing but respect for him. It was a great match. He's a great scrambler. I feel like that's one of my strengths, and so it was fun to scramble with a guy who's that sound and that technical.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't think I've ever been in a situation when I heard more about the coin toss, how the coin toss meant everything. And I'm thinking, man, really, does it really mean that much? Like the flip of a coin, and it really did. I mean, both teams really wanted that option.
Yeah, I think it did. It was the talk of our week. Whether we won or lost, we were going to be like, all right, we can do this. We've got work to do if we don't win the coin toss, but it's still 100% possible. And that was our mindset. If we win the coin toss, fired up. If not, we're still fired up. We're fired up to wrestle. And so the last 2 years we've lost the coin toss. Unfortunately, that was God's plan. Hey, we gotta roll with the punches. And I still felt like we were confident, we were ready to go, and that's just how it worked out. But it's kind of cool to see that you guys were thinking about the coin toss too, because we definitely were. And it was one of those things. My body language when I saw us lose, because I'm out there with captains, so I'm right there by the coin.
I watched you very close during that.
Yep. I still clapped, and I guess some of our fans thought we won the coin toss, but we didn't. But it was good to just keep that body language for the team. It is what it is. Got to be positive. So.
I'm a coach. I coach at football, high levels of football, coach with the Philly Soul, with China. Body language, kids don't realize how important that is, that right. Something bad happens that you don't, that's, and I noticed that one thing about you is that you're always very positive, reinforcing. Let's go. Keep it up. Let it go. Don't worry about that. Forget it. Boom. Like you're like that guy. Like you stay pretty even keel, during it all.
Yeah, no doubt. I think it's huge. It's super important because if you're going to be like one of the leaders of the team, and I try to be that, you got to lead by example. So I was trying to keep it high energy, positive. I know that's not what we wanted, and kind of like worst case, right? You want to win the coin toss and have the matchups that you need, but at that point, you gotta get the next best thing and just do your best at that. With the matchups we were given, but it kind of, if we win that coin toss, I think it's different matchups for sure. The game stayed the same, but I think obviously it would favor you if you win the coin toss there.
Yeah, I know that, and I found this out a little later during the tournament that Jax really wanted to bump down and see Joey,
right,
and do that matchup. And when it didn't happen, I thought he looked a little ticked off about it, like it didn't happen. And unfortunately, my son's the one he had to wrestle, and he had to take the brunt of the frustration.
Yeah, well, he sacrificed pretty hard. He did for sure. I saw him. It was a little bit of a cut. He handled it well. I thought he did a great job. He's a professional. On the mat, off the mat. Yeah, professional. He is. He does things right. It really stunk to see him go to a different college than me. Obviously, I'm happy for him, proud of him. But I really wanted to stick with him and stay with him. But it was God's plan.
At Iowa.
I wanted him to come with us in the black and gold, but he's going to Oklahoma State. I couldn't be more proud. That's awesome for him. He's going to do amazing things. But he sacrificed for us and wanted that match. And again, I mean, it's about winning a national title as a team. So I totally understand why they made that move.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I can understand his frustration. He definitely missed a couple. He didn't eat the ice cream or the cake. I can tell you that. So.
Let's talk about Iowa, man. Congratulations. That is awesome. Awesome for you. Phenomenal. So happy for you. You get to wear the black and yellow, stay in the Steeler spectrum. But, yeah, man. So let's talk about that. So why Iowa?
Yeah, well, it's been a dream for me since I was young, and I kind of try to keep it within my family just because, especially during the recruiting process, because I was open. I wanted to hear everybody out. I did like 7 visits. Like, that's more than normal. just because I wanted to see where I was.
7
where I was
visits to seven different colleges.
Yes, sir. Yeah, went to
wow.
seven weekends. I got great training. It was awesome. It was really cool to see these different places. I obviously visited Iowa, and I felt like that was the place where I could be the best wrestler person, where I could grow in my faith. And I think that coming out of Carver Hawkeye Arena is going to be pretty special. The Iowa fans and the empire, I like to describe it as, is like it's going to be pretty awesome to wrestle there. And again, it's been something that I've been looking forward to my whole life. To like that was like the dream. So to make that happen, it's going to be pretty awesome. And I know that being from Pennsylvania, that's a tough decision to make. But I believe that it's the right decision. You know, it wasn't the easy one.
Now, was there anybody, were you tossing and turning about a couple schools? Was it like, and then Iowa, or was it, you're pretty lasered in for a while in Iowa?
Yeah, I feel like at this point I'm super lasered in. I was lasered in for a while. I think talking it over with my family, my coaches, the people that mean the most was really weighing all the options. I got to a point where the top 7 was kind of where it got really tough. And then the top 3, top 4 there was extremely hard. And making those calls, telling people that, hey, I'm not, coming there is one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. Must have an easy life if that's one of the hardest things. But it was tough. It was tough telling people that, that's not where I'm going to go, and try not to burn bridges because you know how wrestling goes, and keep great relationships. But yeah, I mean, I was pretty lasered in. I love Iowa. I'm excited to become the best version of me, hopefully.
Dude, what I love about this whole story, being in the football world a lot, pro boxer, all that stuff, you hear about these deals, these NIL deals for football guys. They're like astronomical, going through the roof. And you kind of are the first guy to break through, not only a trendsetter, but, people are you're opening the door for a lot of opportunity for a lot of kids.
Yes, I think so. I think that if we can keep building our sport to be like football or, basketball, that would be awesome. And I think in a lot of these colleges, wrestling is like the top sport, just doing the best. Numbers can keep going up, attendance. We can try to keep getting on TV more, putting out great images on social media. That's my goal, is to keep growing the sport. I think we're making steps in the right direction.
Yeah, I was talking to your dad a little bit. What a great guy. Your dad's a really cool dude, man.
Yeah, he's in there.
So the juggernaut that is, like, we're in media, obviously, so I see all your stuff out there. It's a full-time job tracking Bo Bassett's life, man. I mean, it's like you have a team there, like a media or marketing team, I'm assuming, because there's not one person can't do all that. So you're used to collaborating, with a lot of different, voices. Does that ever get a little too much, or does Pop handle a lot of that stuff?
I think for me, it's just part of my lifestyle. It's what I love to do kind of on the side. So if I'm not wrestling, like I'm trying to grow my brand and trying to, I mean, really it is still wrestling. I'm still trying to get better and finding ways to put out the right image and try to grow the wrestling world. So I love doing that part of things. My dad has been he's my role model. He's my inspiration. Like, he's the man. He's been here through every step of the way. So, he helps me a lot with that. I do have an agent and stuff, but I get a lot of help. And I think that, again, it's what I love to do. So it's not really ever too much. It's just kind of something I do on the side. And I think that we really time manage well. And I think that we schedule our plans out and make sure that we're doing things right. And, getting obviously the training in and trying to back up what we're posting.
Man, I mean, if you look back, now I saw some pictures of you, as a little tiny, 5, 6, or 7, I don't know. But I mean, when you look back, you're in 11th grade now, and it's not a 20-year look back, but it's, in the last 10 years, you look back, and could you ever think did you think this is where you'd be? I mean, there's called manifestation. We manifest these things, but bro, you're another level with this. So,
yeah. I mean, I visualized when I was younger a lot. We were always really big in visualizing and setting really high goals. And I don't think I ever pictured it like exactly this. But I knew I could do great things and try to achieve my goals, but I didn't know, what that would really look like. And I think just being here, I'm just super blessed. I have a lot of amazing opportunities, but a lot of amazing people around me. My family's unbelievable and wouldn't be here without them, along with my coaches and my training partners. But I think I'm just a super blessed person to be where I'm at, and the tools that I've been given to be able to bear the right fruits. And it's been great. It's been really fun. I think if I look back, I had big goals, but I didn't know what it really looked like. And it's pretty crazy, what we're being able to do in Pennsylvania. I think, like Flo was telling me, I'm pretty sure that duel that we had in the state national finals, there was like almost record-setting attendance. Like, that's pretty awesome to be able to do that in high school and keep making this sport better and keep growing it. And I think both teams do a really good job of putting their faith first. So, when I was younger, I imagined like some pretty cool stuff, but I don't know if I imagined like being able to just inspire like we've been able to do.
Well, what do you do to get away from the noise, all that stuff? Do you fish, you shoot? Well, I mean, what do you do when you need to just – I need to be by myself for a little bit, get away from all this. What do you do?
Yeah, well, I've got 2 brothers at home, and we compete in everything. So both my brothers are super competitive. So we're competing all the time. Obviously, wrestling is like what we do, but it's not us, you know. And I don't like to be known as like the wrestler or like in like my town or whatever, like, oh, he's the wrestler or, you know, whatever it is. I would rather be known as, hey, like, you know, first of all, a follower of God, but like just know me as a person. I like to be the best person I can be. We do have a hunting camp. It's about actually 2 hours north, I believe. It's up towards New York. So it's about 2 hours north. No self-service. We go up there on open weekends. We don't really get up there a lot, but we try to. And it's just awesome. Lakes and rivers and just lots of open field. And then there's obviously mountains in Pennsylvania. And it's pretty awesome. There's no self-service. So you get out there. We try to go up there as much as we can. That's something we like to do. We like to travel. And I think really, again, I just compete with my brothers and everything. You know, if Keegan wants to hop online and play Madden or play NCAA, I'll kick his butt here and there.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? So whatever he wants to do, but we're big sports fans as well. Like we get excited for the Super Bowl and watching this. We're big Steelers guys, but last night we were big Eagles fans from Pennsylvania. Right. And we watch college football as well. But spending time with my family is really big. We like to travel. And, you know, again, my 2 best friends are in my house. So it's awesome.
So you hunt like deer and bear and all that stuff? Fishing?
Yes, there is. There's deer, there's bear, there's squirrels, there's bald eagles up there. There's a lot of different types of snakes. So they got everything up there. There's a lot of great fishing spots as well. I haven't been huge into hunting. I think I've went like just a couple of times with my dad. I don't got any kills, to be honest with you. I'm not a huge hunter. But I've been fishing a couple of times. The last time I went up there, me, Keegan, Melvin, Magro, there's some good fishing spots, and he was getting his rod out. But we go up there just to get away from all the noise and just the world and the grind. And it's just nice to get out there where it's just the people you love and just get away from it all. But it's pretty awesome. But my dad was more big into that growing up. It's just now just wrestling takes a lot of our time.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. I mean, it's a year-round. You guys do a year-round. You do freestyle and all that, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, big into that. I started freestyle when I was like 8. So I've been doing freestyle a long time.
How about Greco? You do any of that?
Well, I did do Greco for a while, probably like 5 years, and then it just didn't make sense to me anymore as far as competing, just because we don't put a lot of time into it. There's not a lot of great resources in the U.S. It's not our strength, but I think that we're starting to go in the right direction. It's just tough because there's not really any like Greco-centered coaches, and I think that it's one of those things I would rather go all in on freestyle and folk style. But I did do a lot of Greco, and I'm not the best brother at Greco. I can tell you that. Keegan has the crown there, but he also retired from Greco as well. So we're not, we train it. I think it's important to have that aspect, and it is wrestling, but we only compete folk style and freestyle.
No, that's awesome, man. So Iowa, what are your immediate goals at Iowa? Do you have anything immediately you want to accomplish going there?
I just think that Iowa is a place where I can really grow my brand. I can grow myself. I can grow as a wrestler, as a person, and I can grow in my faith. And I think that I can, everybody knows Iowa wrestling, especially if you know wrestling, right? And it's just one of those places that I really believe that I can grow that place and try to help growing the sport. I mean, everybody loves high intensity, lots of points type style, and I want to bring that to Iowa. And I know they all already do a great job of that, but keep putting out the right image, change the program as much as I can. Obviously, it's going to be tough to do that because they're so awesome already. But I think for me, it's just achieve my goals. And that maybe is like, hey, 4-time NCAA champion and then world champion, Olympic champion. But I think for me, it's just, hey, be the best wrestler I can possibly be.
Yeah, Iowa was like old standard for years. I mean, I'm 55, so as a kid, Dan Gable, Iowa was like the mecca. And, I guess you want to try to resurrect that a little bit. I mean, they're always up there in the top 5-10.
I think so. Yeah, I may bring that back. Why not? Why not us? Obviously, Penn State's been the team the last years. It'd be awesome to take them down. But I think that, if we could just keep every single day getting a little bit better, I think that that's definitely possible. And Iowa's a place where I think I can really reach my full potential. So I'm excited to chase those goals.
Awesome. Bo Bassett, thank you so much for taking the time. I know you're a busy young man. God bless you, man. I'm so happy for you. The groundbreaking things you're doing in the sport. I'm a fan. The haters, put them in the rearview mirror. I know none of that ever bothers you, brother. Tell your dad I said hello, and thanks for coming on. We'll get you before you go to college.
I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. Best of luck the rest of the year, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
We'll see you in States, brother. Take
Yes,
care.
sir. Thank you, guys. God bless.
All right, be back soon. Henry Racich on the National High School Wrestling Show.
What if you could earn an MBA fully online in just 10 months for only $1,900? Eastern University's cutting-edge MBA in Organizational Management is designed to fit what you need in an MBA program. Our innovative LifeFlex model offers 100% online classes that you can complete at your own pace within each 7-week semester. We know how hard you work for your money, so we're thrilled to offer our MBA at only $9,900, making our program between 50 to 80% less expensive than most other schools, while ensuring quality and excellence with the support of our expert faculty. We even offer a concentration in business analytics, an essential skill set needed in today's data-driven economy. With start dates every 7 weeks, Eastern's MBA is handcrafted for you and your needs. So what are you waiting for? Apply today at eastern.edu/MBA.
Welcome back, everyone, to the National High School Wrestling Show. Our special guest this evening is Gene Zanetti of Wrestler's Mindset. If you're in the wrestling world, if you're on Instagram, if you're in Facebook, you know this man's face and you know what he is all about. Gene, thanks so much for coming on the show tonight. Really appreciate it.
Henry, thanks for having me.
Anytime, brother. So listen, I'm going to be brief with my intro here to turn over the mic so you could load our minds with all this good stuff that you're pitching out here and helping all these wrestlers. So, Gene, tell me and tell our viewers, what is Wrestling Mindset? What is it about? What's the end game? And how do we get there?
Right. So my brothers, Jeff and Greg, myself, we all were top 3 wrestlers in the state of New Jersey. We were nationally ranked, all Ivy League wrestlers at the University of Pennsylvania. Greg was a 2-time academic All-American over at Rutgers. He's now a priest. He still wrestles over at Rutgers. He was ranked as high as 6th in the country. So our whole life was really geared towards being the best we possibly could, maximize our potential in wrestling, in school, our future career, our spirituality. And we know how competitive a society it is, right? We know how competitive things are, and it's only more and more competitive over time. So you realize very quickly that it's the confident people who win the big matches, the confident people who get the A's in school, the confident people get the date, the confident people get into the school of their dreams, the confident people get the job. So, knowing how mental the sport was in wrestling, I went on to get 2 master's degrees, one in exercise science and sports psychology, and the second in clinical psychology. I became a school psychologist. So I started working with athletes back in 2008. And now at this point in time, we have the #1 wrestling-specific sports psychology company anywhere in the world. So it's made by wrestlers, for wrestlers, carried out by wrestlers. And we've worked with other sports too, but wrestling's our bread and butter, of course. We've worked with the U.S. Olympic teams, both men and women. We've worked with about 1/3 of the Division I teams. We've worked with our Division II team, St. Cloud State, multiple-time national champions since we've been working with them, and literally athletes from ages 6 years old right through professional UFC fighters, MMA fighters, about 24 of them. So we've taken some of the most mentally tough people in the world, and we've made them even more mentally tough, right? Great wrestlers come in all different shapes and sizes, but one thing they all have in common is they all have a great mindset. And that doesn't just go for great wrestlers. My goal, our entire mission with what we do is using wrestling as a vehicle to build better people, to build virtue, to build mental skills, not only on the mat, but in school and in their entire life. And at this point in time, at this particular point in 2025, every serious wrestler needs to be working on their mindset, no question. You look at the top 3 teams at the NCAA tournament this past year, Penn State, Iowa, Cornell. All 3 of them have one main thing in common. They all brought their mindset coach with them to the NCAA tournament last year. So if Cale Sanderson knows it's important, if Tom Brands knows it's important, if Mike Gray knows it's important, it doesn't take a rocket scientist, right? You need to don't get creative, don't get flashy, just copy what the best people are doing. And I always say, you know, the Soviets, they're about 30 years ahead of us. They've been working with mental training since, you know, even before the 1970s. I have literature of them talking about this even back, in the early 1920s.
Wow.
So this is serious business. I mean, these wrestlers are breaking their backs physically. Everything they're doing, conditioning, strength training, technique. And then when you look at Kerry Colot's website, he says it's 95% mental. 95%. So we're talking about, I mean, this is one of the greatest American wrestlers of all time. Clearly, he's a physical specimen on the mat. He had great technique, but he's saying it's 95% mental. And then when you look at the best guys, and even, you know, a lot of the wrestlers, you're saying, what percentage are they training physically and mentally? A lot of wrestlers, I know how it was when I was competing, 95% to 100% physical training. And we wonder why we struggle with the same kind of mental blocks. People losing to guys they should beat. They're underperforming. They're not wrestling with that killer instinct. They're not pulling the trigger. They're wrestling too cautious, too conservative, too hesitant. These kids, they're a lot of wrestlers are burning out. Some of them are too emotional on the mat. They can't control their emotions once they get scored on, or their opponent takes a cheap shot, does something dirty. A lot of these wrestlers are throwing up before they go out there to wrestle. You know, they don't have that. Like I said, they don't have that killer instinct. They don't have that eye of the tiger that they might in practice. They get their head filled with all kinds of different things. I mean, I have wrestlers reaching out all the time on Instagram, parents on email saying to me, my kids are, you know, my kid wants to quit the sport. They're not enjoying it anymore. These kids are saying that they're afraid of letting down their parents, their coaches. They're filling their heads too much with records, rankings, seedings, predictions, all the stuff that's outside of their control. And we have to reframe them, right? If you're getting the job done, if you could beat a guy in practice, if you could beat a guy in the off season, if you could beat a guy, you know, at your club or at a camp, there's no reason you can't beat him in a match other than you're a mental midget. You're running some kind of negative mental pattern. So we need to do three things. We need to, one, identify the negative mental pattern. Two, we need to break that negative mental pattern. And three, we need to create a positive mental pattern, a new positive mental pattern. So just like a mechanic who has to look under the hood of the car, what's going wrong, right? You're saying your car is broke. We have to figure out what that is. We find out what that is. We identify, we break it, and then we create a new positive mindset. But most wrestlers have no idea how to do it. And a lot of times these kids need to hear from someone other than mom and dad, other than the coach. They need someone to talk to and open up about their doubts, fears, and insecurities. And frankly, these kids don't want to talk to a counselor or therapist. They want to talk to someone who's been there, done that. They know wrestling. They've cut weight. They've gone through the grind of a long season. They know what it's like, because if you haven't wrestled before, you don't know exactly what it is.
I haven't done this sport. So, Gene, I want to back you up real quick. You said the top three schools at the NCAA championships last year brought their is it sports psychologists with them, or their mindset,
yep,
you know, personnel. Now, how would that work during a live tournament? Do they have pre-match talks? Do they let them download after the match? How does that work in that kind of environment? Every
kid's different, and you got to address that well before the competition. You can't, and that's the problem. A lot of parents and a lot of coaches are leaving it to chance. That's not okay. You don't leave your technique to chance, or your strength training, your conditioning, your nutrition, your rest and recovery. It's laughable to leave that to chance. But most people are just kind of winging it on match day. And you're wondering why the consistency is up and down. There's no consistency. These kids are so inconsistent, it's consistent. As my coach used to say.
Right. And you mentioned something about that first match of the day. Sometimes my son has this. I don't know what it is, what you call it, but the first match of the day, he just always seems to not wrestle well. Then he warms up, then he's fine the rest of the day. But that first morning match, for some reason, is that a common occurrence?
I could go into almost any wrestling room in the country, and I could ask, what's your worst match of the day? And usually they say it's their first match. That's a major problem, because as the season goes on, that becomes all automatic qualification matches, or automatic placing, automatic All-American. So it's a really big deal. And a lot of times what's happening with these wrestlers is they're not getting their motor running before they step out on the mat. They change what they're doing in practice. So if your kid's a practice room wrestler, you have to see, what are they doing in practice? What are they telling themselves in practice? Usually before they go live, every kid, and this is what the kids will say, they wrestle 6 days a week. Okay, what do you normally do before you go live? You drill. Right. And are you taking it really serious? Are you like, yes, you're taking it serious, but usually they're laughing, they're joking around with their friends. Okay. Right. So 6 days a week, your pattern is this. You're taking it serious, but you're having fun. You drill, you go live. You drill, you go live. You drill, you go live. Take an educated guess what you should do before you go live in a match. You should drill. Yeah. And you should be having fun with your friends. Now, this is not, there's a big difference between joking around and messing around, right? When we say joking around, the Penn State guys, they're laughing, they're smiling, they're having a good time. I just interviewed Shane Van Ness. That show is going to be coming out next week that we're going to have on our podcast. But he was talking about it, that before the matches, they strategically laugh and joke around with each other. So they take the mood, they keep it light and fun. Right. And you have to drill before the match because it's not just the mind. It always works together. It's the mind and the body. And if you're running a pattern over and over in practice and you're performing well, you'd be foolish not to run that same exact pattern before a match. So you need to make
their head a little bit about, oh, this guy's ranked here, he's this or he's that. The mental games that happen, they almost psych themselves out of where they should be mentally, right?
Yeah, it's one of the worst things you could do. You have to stay away from what we call the hype, the fan mentality, right? If you have to choose, you're either a wrestler or you're a spectator. You can't be both. Oh, if you're a wrestler, if you're a wrestler, you have to throw out records, rankings, predictions, the storylines. Forget about seeds. Seeds are for the birds. Okay. You need to focus on what you could control. And that's your effort, your attitude, and your aggressiveness. That's what you control. So if you're a parent coming to me, or if you're a coach coming to me and saying, what should I be doing for my kid right now? What could I do for my kid right now? All right. Here's the deal. Right now, if you're a parent, don't bring up wrestling unless your kid brings it up. Okay. Because right now they're already feeling the heat. We're getting to crunch time. I mean, this is the time to win. So your kid's thinking about wrestling enough. He doesn't need mom or dad at the house talking about wrestling. Trust me, these kids are telling us we haven't dealt with hundreds of wrestlers, not thousands, but tens and thousands, and probably closing in on hundreds of thousands. We know what these kids need. They're telling us, don't talk to them about wrestling unless they bring it up. If they bring it up, keep it short and sweet. The main lesson, the main point that your kid needs to hear from you right now as a parent is, I love you and I'm proud of you. That's it. The shorter, the better. Keep the mood light and fun around the house because they're already feeling the heat. You don't want to add unnecessary pressure. Now, you're still the parent. They have to do their schoolwork. They have to do their chores around the house. It's not a get out of jail free card for them. But as far as everything else, keep the mood light and fun. Do not let your kids hear you talk about the records, the rankings, the seedings, or the predictions. If you want to do that with your friends, that's fine. Don't do it around your kids because it's making them overthink and it's creating more pressure. That has nothing at all to do with wrestling. What you want to do as a parent and a coach is you want to both verbally and non-verbally reinforce effort, attitude, and aggressiveness. Why? Because that's what's directly in their control. Winning and losing is not in their control. You have to throw that out. That's what's going to add pressure to them. Imagine you're running a mile, and then I give you a 45-pound plate, and I say, let's see if you could beat your best time mile with that 45-pound plate on your back. Right. That's exactly what's happening to these kids when they're thinking about these records, these rankings, winning or losing, the magnitude of the tournament. Treat it the same. Live wrestling is live wrestling. Oh, we have a big tournament coming up. No, we don't. We have another tournament coming up. It's live wrestling. Your kid's done it before. They'll do it again. You treat it all the same. 9 out of 10 times, if you make a match special, you're more likely to lose. Also, scouting. A lot of parents, coaches ask me about this. There are some wrestlers that scouting has helped, of course. But for every one kid that I've seen scouting help, I've seen it hurt 20 to 30. Why? Because kids become preoccupied with their opponent. We worked with the Olympic team back in 2015. We had a wrestler who was a multiple-time national champion. He said he was more physically prepared for the Olympics than any other competition in his life. He lost that match because when he stepped on the line, all he was thinking about was his opponent's move. Watch his headlock, watch his headlock, watch his headlock. Sure enough, the match ends, and he did not get to his offense. And he said if he had one regret, if there was one thing he could do different for the Olympics, it wasn't more strength training, it wasn't more technique, it was his focus. And in my mind, that's such a simple mindset shift that he could have made. And that's a shame because you don't get that opportunity back. So you want to make sure that you cross your T's, you dot your I's, you do everything you possibly could to reach your goals. And if you're neglecting mindset, it's hard to take you serious at this stage of the game in 2025.
So Gene, I know everybody's different, but what's the fastest you've seen results? And sometimes guys take a year or more for this to sink in, or what have you experienced?
Well, that's exactly why we have our 30-day mindset transformation. So we do have our weekly program that wrestlers they're working with their mindset coach every single week. But some people need a change right now, right? So we created that 30 days transformation for situations just like this, where we have the postseason coming up, or NHSCA, or Fargo, or Super 32. When these events are coming up, these kids need to pull it together really quickly. So there we have them work with our absolute best mindset coaches, and it could happen fast. The great thing about mindset, we've all heard of the concept of a breakthrough. Another way to look at it is an aha moment. You've had it, I've had it. And it's like when you're looking at an optical illusion when you're a kid. Once you could see it, you can't unsee it. It's impossible to unsee it. And by the way, I should add this. That's impossible for the body. Even if you hit puberty, you don't wake up one day and bench press 400 pounds. You have to build up your body to bench press 400 pounds, if that ever is going to happen. With the mindset, you could make a breakthrough instantly, because once you see it, you can't unsee it. Now, don't get me wrong here. It takes work to bulletproof your mindset. You could make big changes in a month with our 30-day mindset transformation, but still, confidence and motivation, they don't stay stable over time. Kids' confidence goes up and down. Motivation goes up and down. The parameters of a kid's life when they're a freshman in high school versus a senior in high school versus a freshman in college versus a senior in college are radically different. So they need to be working on their mindset all year round. There's no doubt about that. But as far as how fast can a change happen in one area, it could happen very fast.
So is it mostly confidence in themselves, or more worried about the other opponent? Like, what is the trigger? Like, I mean, what do you dig up? I mean,
so Henry, this is where it is. Just like no two fingers on your hand are identical. No two kids are the same. I couldn't tell you. I could give you these general principles, and they're great. Everything I said is going to help your audience here. But in order to know what makes one kid tick and what turns a kid off, if you're a mechanic, I can't tell you what's wrong with the car if I don't look under the hood. Right. So there's general principles that work for everyone, but then we have to see what's going on with each kid, because on top of the pressures for wrestling, I mean, in the past 2 days, how many parents I've talked to, not only are they struggling on the mat, one kid has ADD, one kid's more OCD, another kid could have an eating disorder, another kid's dyslexic. There's all different. There's baggage on top of the mental blocks they're having on the wrestling mat. So you can't necessarily tell each kid the same thing. We have our mindset program to build up these mental muscles, but you have to get in there and see what each kid is struggling with. And once you find out where the weak link is, change comes really quick.
So, Gene, you told me that you work with the U.S. wrestling team and some pretty big names, right, in the sport so far?
Yeah, and the thing is, what I'll say about that is they're not struggling with anything different than our 8 or 9 year olds. They're just as afraid of letting down their fans, their parents, and in some ways even more, because they have more eyes on them.
Right.
And here's the thing: the kids have more pressure on them than they do now because they're starting younger. Most of these kids have been wrestling since they're 4 or 5 years old. Social media adds an entirely different dimension to it, because you could see not only what your opponents are saying and doing, you're watching what your opponents' family, friends, what they're all saying on the comments. It really messes with their minds. When we were younger, you had the box scores from the newspaper. I could tell a kid, hey, put the newspaper away and don't look at it till after the season. And maybe there was like the wrestling forum. But now social media, it's in your face. Yeah.
Yeah, you can't escape it. It's everywhere you look, everywhere you go.
Right.
It's happening.
So the young guys are struggling with the same guys, with the same issues as the older guys. And that's why they say, a lot of parents will say, well, my kid will grow out of it. Well, no, that hasn't been my experience at all. What happens is you might get better technically, you might get stronger, but those mental blocks, they follow you up, because at the end of the day, you have to fix the problem. You can't get better at math by studying English. You don't get better at history by studying science. If your kid's underperforming, if he's losing to guys he should beat, that's a mental issue. You got to fix that problem. Otherwise, your kid's getting better, but you're still driving the car in second gear. You got 5 gears. Yeah, you're getting a faster car, but you're still in second gear. So what?
Gene, I love it, man. I mean, so you worked with, did you work with Jordan?
If you look at our website, we have Vito on there, Yanni, John Poznansky, Bo Bartlett. We were working with Shane Van Ness back when he was in high school, winning national championships over at Blair Academy. So, like I said, it's no different. Like, I want to stress that to the audience, that they're not different than you with what they go through. It's just they're attacking the problem head on, and a lot of times we're leaving it to chance. Can't do that.
Gene, there was, I'm 55. I graduated in 88. There wasn't this. This is another tool for your toolbox, your arsenal. And we didn't have this opportunity when I was a kid. Nobody talked about their emotions. Everyone was just, all right, bottle it up and go use it as fuel. But there's a lot of kids that need an outlet and to decompress. And I feel like my son has done a session or two with you guys. He loves it because he gets to talk to somebody he gets to hear a voice that's not me. He gets to talk about things that he probably would never say to me. So firsthand, I know the value of what you bring to the table. So how would somebody watching you right now reach out and find you?
Email us, mindset@wrestlingmindset.com. Our website's wrestlingmindset.com. Get a hold of us because, like I said, especially for that 30-day mindset transformation, we only have a few coaches that do that. There's only a few slots left for that. Of course, everyone else, we're still very much happy to help you. You need to do this. And my goal was to make mindset training available to all wrestlers. So we have programs that span all across the board. Okay. So if you want the creme de la creme, you want the very best, we have our 30-day mindset transformation. We also have our one-on-one individual coaching. And we also have group coaching that people could jump on where they get 3 video calls a week with 3 group calls. So we have options for everyone. The key thing is don't leave your mindset to chance, because the very best aren't leaving their mindset to chance. There was a period in time when strength training was not as mainstream. Now it's laughable to think of not strength training if you're an athlete. In a few years from now, it's going to be the same exact thing with mindset. The revolution has already begun with that. You don't want to fall behind your competition. So whether it's wrestling, school, business, or life, it's your mindset that makes the difference.
All right, there you have it, folks. Gene Zanetti with Wrestling Mindset. Gene, thanks so much for coming on the show. We will for sure have you back as we get through the state tournament. But I really appreciate you coming on and giving us your time tonight.
Thank you for having me. Take care.
All right, you got it. All right, we're going to sign off here. Henry Racing signing off from the National High School Wrestling Show. We will see you next week, folks. Good night.
What if you could earn an MBA fully online in just 10 months for only $9,900? Eastern University's cutting-edge MBA in Organizational Management is designed to fit what you need in an MBA program. Our innovative LifeFlex model offers 100% online classes that you can complete at your own pace within each 7-week semester. We know how hard you work for your money, so we're thrilled to offer our MBA at only $9,900, making our program between 50 to 80% less expensive than most other schools, while ensuring quality and excellence with the support of our expert faculty. We even offer a concentration in business analytics, an essential skill set needed in today's data-driven economy. With start dates every 7 weeks, Eastern's MBA is handcrafted for you and your needs. So what are you waiting for? Apply today at eastern.edu/MBA.